Welcome to TipTea Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Dodd, and today joining me are my two lovely co-hosts, Layla Ziadich, and our special guest, a dear friend of mine, Esther Spinner. Hello, ladies.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So, Esther, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm just a regular person doing a normal regular person job until I become president. And that's, just like 4 years away. So, I am a white lady. So obviously I love true crime. And I don't, what else, Robert? What have I...
What is your platform for president? Like, give us your spiel before we dive deep.
It's really just all the liberal things. I like to, although I would, the term humanitarian comes to mind, like a little bit better. Yeah, it's just I don't want people to have to struggle, and they don't have to.
We love that. Did I just hear a cat? Did somebody's cat?
I mean, that happens at my house.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I just wanted to call out.
Yeah, it's our unofficial mascot, or my cats who fight in the background.
I've got one asleep next to me, so yeah, it could happen anytime.
Perfect. We'll just
as well.
Perfect.
So yeah.
So today for us, the reason why we decided to have Esther on the show is today we are talking true crime, a personal favorite of mine, and I feel like every other white lady in the world. So,
Robert, you're a white lady.
I'm basically an honorary white lady.
Facts.
But I'm also an honorary black. I just live in this half and half world where I can just go back and forth, and it's really great. So tell me, give me your reasoning for why you think people are so addicted to true crime. Like, what is it about true crime for you that you just find so addicting?
I think a lot of people like true crime and are interested in true crime for a lot of different reasons. For me, I think it is fascinating, especially with serial killers. I think it is fascinating how they are just not normal people. Their brains do not work the same way that our brains work. And I just think that is so fascinating, terrible, but also very fascinating. And then also I have a lot of empathy, and I know I came of age in the 90s, so in the late 90s, and there was almost no supervision. So there were so many times I could have been murdered.
Yes.
I am surprised that I did make it through my adolescence, because, I love to talk to strangers, and I didn't like to tell my mother where I was going. So it was really just not great things all around, and I made it through. So
I feel like the 90s for everybody, for all of us, you said it, and I feel like I could speak for myself, were just a time of nobody giving a shit about anything. There were no rules. It was lawless. The 90s were lawless. We were able to do whatever the fuck we wanted to do.
And I feel like a lot of, most other things, you can really blame it on the boomers, because they were raising us, and they just couldn't really be bothered with us. They just had things that they wanted to do. They wanted to live their lives. And the rest of us were just oh, okay.
I feel like the boomers stressed out the Gen X generation, and then when it was our turn, they're just like, well, fuck it, we're alive, we made it through it, our times were lawless, we're gonna make it even more lawless. And I feel like you said, I just talk to strangers, but I always have this plan that if I was going to be kidnapped, I don't think that the kidnappers would want me for a long time because I feel like I would just overtalk and overshare and just get really annoying. And then they would be like, this is the worst decision that we've ever made. Like, we're gonna return you.
I don't think they would, though, Robert. I think they would just kill you. I don't want to be the donor. But yeah, I don't think they're just going to return you because you talk to them too much. I think they would just probably shoot you in the face.
Dang.
No regrets.
No regrets.
I mean, either way, you're not going to get tortured. So.
And then I've also like, okay, so I'm just warning everybody, like, and maybe I'll put a warning at the beginning, but this episode's going to get dark and I'm just going to like dark humor. Is it also bad that like the thought has come around in my brain that if I were ever to be like sexually assaulted, that I would pretend that I'm enjoying it, because then that would take the pleasure out of the, like, is it weird that I thought that?
No, I don't think so. I think you were thinking like, how can I survive? I think that's your like survival instinct.
But does that make sense?
No, I mean, yeah, I've definitely thought about that before because like some people get off on attacking women.
Yeah.
Say women, men, whoever, and they get off on like the fear. So if there is no fear, then there is no pleasure, so to speak.
But then they probably just kill us.
I mean, they definitely, well, if we saw their faces or like if we could speak to like, you know, identifying factors, I'm sure we wouldn't last very long.
Yeah.
You know?
So, Layla, what about true crime for you?
Well, where do I begin? Honestly, my mother has instilled a love of like forensic files onto me. She used to fall asleep to that, which I don't know if that speaks to her fucked up psyche or what, but like it was soothing to her. But also like the narrator does have a very like monotone, you know, type of voice, but she's falling asleep to like, you know, people explaining like murder scenes and investigations. So that's pretty wild.
Okay. Question for you.
Yeah.
Does your mom get, when you guys are watching like true crime or like whodunit or like mysteries, like murder mysteries, does she get the killer right?
Every single time.
I was just going to say.
Every fucking time.
I was just going to say that your mom, I just could sense like that she would be the one that knows yeah, he did it.
Yeah. Like she will be like, okay, now this is what's going to happen next. And sure enough, it happens. She's just either seen it all or she has this like wicked intuition, which I think it's part of both of those things. But for me, the reason I'm into it is because, I don't know, it's like a weird, like, not that I love quoting Dr. Drew, but Dr. Drew at one point was explaining like women's fantasies or like, I guess, how they fantasize like being removed from danger. It's almost like it prepares you to, I guess, like defend yourself, or like women feel comfortable in knowing what could happen to them versus not knowing. So they kind of just like enjoy finding out like about these awful things. I mean, I guess there's like a little bit of logic in that, and it probably applies to me because now I won't like, well, I mean, let's be honest, I'll never run in a park, but like if I were to run in a park, I'm not going to like have headphones in as a woman because I don't feel safe. And you know, we've all heard that story about like a woman getting, you know, attacked because she didn't hear them coming or anything like that. So.
Oh yeah, I've seen that episode of CSI for sure.
Well, Law and Order SVU. Done.
Yeah.
So what about?
I think for all of us, yeah, it's a little bit of partly a coping mechanism, and then also just preparation for if we do get rape murdered.
But also fascination. Like if I can add like a little bit of that to it, because I don't know, like when I was watching the Night Stalker series, I was just like blown away by like what some people are capable of, you know? It's just so, I don't know, it seems otherworldly because like day-to-day life is so mundane. So like when you hear about something like, you know, somebody who like shoots somebody in the face and then like comes back for more, et cetera, like it's just so insane to me that there are people like that out there. I don't know. It's almost, it doesn't seem real.
Well, yeah. And one thing I've been asking myself recently is, are we and by we, I mean just our society, are we creating these killers?
Yes.
Because you look at a lot of folks' upbringing, and there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of abuse and a lot of neglect. And a lot of times these folks will turn, well, I mean, not a lot of times. Most people aren't killers that grow up with trauma, but, there are some that really do end up going towards violence, and it's very interesting. I don't know. It's a little bit of the psychology, a little bit of a coping mechanism, but yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
I think that it's going to get worse with social media and everything. I think it's going to actually, Gen Z will be the worst. There's going to be.
Mean? How do you think that'll impact them?
I think that with online bullying and all that stuff, and just a detachment of the real world, quote unquote, real world. Not that online world is not real, but just. But you know what I mean? You're getting removed from reality in a way. And I feel like that has an effect on your psyche. And then you add trauma. So I feel like you already have just living day-to-day life. You're already going to have all these people who have traumas from everyday life. But then you add social media on top of that. And then I think it's going to make it even worse, as the years go on. I don't know.
Yeah,
my theory.
It's gonna make confidence better, and it is certainly a new form of trauma, right? Being bullied online. So many people can hop on that bandwagon and so to speak ruin your life, depending on how intense it can get. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that it didn't exist in the 70s. You know what I mean?
I mean, also the bullying, but then this sense of there's going to be more people that are isolated because of the online presence. So then you have people who are have trauma, and then you isolate them and put them in situations where social media is so abundant, and it is kind of isolating when you get sucked into that hole. And then I feel like that's just a recipe for a serial killer. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. That's my theory.
I mean, there are so many recipes for a serial killer. Yeah, Murderpedia is the cooking channel. So, yeah.
So today we are going to talk about JonBenét Ramsey. She was 6 years old when she was murdered, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you kind of present her story, Esther, and then I might interrupt you if I have questions I want to clarify throughout. But I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna let you tell your story.
Yeah, no, jump in anytime you'd like. As Robert said, it's probably going to get pretty dark, but I am not going to be very graphic because it bums me out saying the words. Watching a truth movie about murder, totally fine. Talking specifics kind of it just bums me out. You know what I mean? So JonBenét is JonBenét Patricia Ramsey, and her name. So she was born to John Ramsey and Patricia Patsy Ramsey. She was the final child of, I think I don't know how many there were total, but Patsy had one in a prior marriage. And then John had, I think, 3 in a prior marriage. And then there was Burke, who was JonBenét's brother, 3 years older than her. And then there was JonBenét. And so if you take her name, it's kind of the most narcissistic thing ever. So JonBenét is a mixture of JonBenét, which is her father's first and middle name, And then her middle name is Patricia, which is her mom's first name. And I'm just like, there is nothing unique about this girl's name.
The creativity ran out.
Yeah. It's just like, well, it's kind of unique, but it's also not.
It's
they
not.
just kind of squished their names together and called it a day. But they were rich people, and that's what rich people do. So she was 6 years old when she died. She was this beauty queen. She had just won, I don't know, like Miss Christmas or something like that. And I think the reason why the media just really exploded over it. One, she is this sweet little white blonde girl. Her parents are rich, so she is a rich white blonde girl. But she was in all these pageants, so there were lots of photos and there were lots of videos, and you really got to see her as the child. Back in the 90s, video was really new as far as home movies. I mean, it wasn't that new because I think my grandparents were videoing vacations back in the, I don't know, 20s, whatever. But back in the 90s, like, we didn't have cell phones where we were just recording everything. It was very early on. But there was so much video of her. So you really got to see this sweet little girl. And then there was a lot of controversy about the pageantry, which I've got all kinds of rants about that.
Well, her mom was a pageant queen, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Her mom was Miss something or other.
West Virginia, I think, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. And she won. Yeah. She was.
Yeah, they're Southern folk originally. And then they ended up in Boulder, Colorado, because John Ramsey owned a software company, which he sold to Lockheed Martin, which they have one of their headquarters or what have you up in Colorado. So he was a really big deal around this time, super wealthy. So we're in 1996. It's Christmas time, December 23rd. There's a call from the Ramsey house to 911. Nobody was on the line. They tried calling back. Everybody at the party said, no, there's nothing going on. Everything is fine. We're just having a lovely little Christmas party. So it could mean something. It could mean nothing. There are children in the house. How many times have you accidentally called 911?
A lot.
I mean, yeah. So it's not, it could be a big deal, but it also could be not. And I think that's another huge thing about true crime. It's, you get all of these details, but some of it might not have anything to do with anything.
Yeah.
So fast forward to Christmas. They opened Christmas presents together. JonBenét got a bike. And then there was a Christmas party at their friend's house. And the next day they were going to get up and go to Georgia, I want to say they were going on a trip back to Georgia because they're Southern folk, remember? So they get home, I want to say like 9, 10, 11, and JonBenét goes straight to bed. December 26th rolls around, 5:30 a.m. Patsy, the mother, she's walking down the stairs to go fix herself some coffee because they're about to get on a plane and go. Their private chartered plane because they're rich. And I keep reminding you these guys are rich because when you guys are like middle class, you grew up in the same area that I did. Wealthy people and regular people are not the same. And like after all of this happened, the Ramseys got a lot of flack for hiring a publicist and a lawyer like immediately. But that's what rich people do.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to preserve your rich, especially if you're the CEO of $1 billion company. So they're completely different people. So Patsy finds this ransom note. She freaks out, calls the police. So I have heard this 911 call far too many times, and I don't like 911 calls. They bum me out. But she gets a lot of flack for that too. Because she, instead of, my daughter's missing, it's, I'm the mother. She does sound very frantic. She immediately, it's very short and quick. Immediately, this is my address. We have a kidnapping. That's another thing that people were like, we have a kidnapping? That's an interesting way.
I was thinking the same thing when I was listening to that.
Right.
Like that wording just sounded really weird. We have a kidnapping. It just sounded like she's reading something or like had thought about the words that she was going to say. Like, you know what I mean?
It's very removed from the situation.
Yeah.
Almost as if somebody handed you the phone and said, hey, call the police and say that there's a kidnapping. Not that you're actually part of it.
We have a kidnapping.
We have a kidnapping. But also at the same time, the woman is traumatized. Her baby girl is missing. I have a hard time judging other people's reactions in those moments because I don't know how I would respond. Probably not well. It's interesting. It's an odd kind of wording.
It's an observation.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the ransom note, first she talks about this ransom note. Well, I mean, she doesn't really talk about it. She says, anyway, let's talk about the ransom note. So it's ungodly long. It is 3 pages long. Normally, ransom notes are maybe like 20 words. It's not much. It's, we have your kid. This is what we want. Here's when we want it.
Don't call the police.
That's it. So it's very long and it's very wordy. They talk about, so they ask for $118,000, which just happens to be the same amount as John Ramsey's most recent bonus for reaching 1 billion sales in his company.
I didn't hear that. I didn't know that.
So John, he's a shady one. Maybe he's a shady one. I don't know. I kind of think all rich people are a little shady. Well, so I'm a little biased. But so he had a company. He owned a company. It was a software company that he ended up selling to Lockheed Martin, and they hit 1 billion sales just before this. And so he was very visible. They were having like a big celebration about it. So he was in the newspaper, which is, well, we can talk about that later. But yeah, so he had just gotten a bonus for $118,000. And so that's how much they asked for in the ransom note. But it wasn't just, this is how much money we want. It is, it's a lot of money. So you're going to need to bring a large attaché briefcase, and you'll want to make sure that you're fully rested. It's just like, what is all this nonsense that's in here? All of this is filler. Yeah. It's like someone's trying to write an essay for a class. No, we don't have to draw it out.
Short, simple, to the point.
Short, simple, to the point. And also in the beginning, they call themselves, we are a small foreign faction. And they say things like, we respect your business, but not the country it is in. And I was just like, this sounds like an action thriller, which, surprise, surprise, how coincidental, Ransom and Die Hard were just released prior to all of this going down. So might mean something, might mean nothing. But so this letter, it was written on stationery that was in the house. So it wasn't something that was brought with them. If, kidnappers had come, it was something that was written while they were in the house. So whether they drafted it there or if they had it previously written and then copied it.
Well, I thought that they said that there was a pen from the kitchen too, that like the pit, like there, the stationery was from the house, and the pen that they used to write it was from the house too, I think.
Yeah, so if they're in the house writing it, then yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some theories that somebody, because the Ramseys, the house had just been in, I don't know, one of those home and garden type magazines. So like there were people touring the house, and it is a giant house because they rich. So there have been theories that maybe someone snatched that pad of paper, but maybe they grabbed a pen too. Who knows? So at about 6 a.m., the cops arrive. The Ramseys invite some friends over, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Okay, I do want to pause because I'm watching this documentary about this, and I just cannot believe, like, what are they doing in Boulder? Like, is there no crime in Boulder? Because, like, this happens, like, JonBenét gets kidnapped, apparently kidnapped. And the police come, and then they invite all of their friends and stuff to come and console them. And the friends and everybody are just walking. The friends, the police, everybody's just walking through the house, contaminating the scene, and nobody's saying anything.
Oh yeah. Like,
I don't get it.
The detectives and the cops, they sucked so bad at this investigation. So bad. And, part of it was Christmas, so they didn't have their A-team. Like, it was, it was all the new people and
the B squad.
The B squad.
Yeah, it was the ones that weren't so great at it because everybody that was good was on vacation. So terrible. It was just done terribly from beginning to end. Yes. So they're trampling all over the scene. There's no, I think they ushered Burke out of the house like immediately. So it's just a whole mess. 10 a.m. comes. That's when the kidnappers are supposed to call. There's no call. So after there's no call, what do? They leave. All of the cops leave except for one very new, brand new,
rookie,
not so good at her job, clearly, cop. Fantastic. Like, this is not good ideas, but whatever.
So it was just her and the husband, John, right?
Yeah. So it was. I didn't bother to write down anybody's name, so I apologize. But it was the police officer, John, and Patsy, and then two of their friends, a couple, that came over to consult them. And just kind of, I guess I can understand it because, yeah, if something very traumatic was happening in my life, I would want people that I love close to me. But they're married and I'm not, so people close to me are my friends. So, but yeah, so after all these cops go and we're left with just one very brand new cop, John's getting very antsy. He's getting not antsy, but he's just very overwhelmed, very flustered. Obviously his child is missing. So this police officer tells John to search the house, look to see if anything is out of place. So he goes downstairs. He's looking around. He sees in this room, they call it a wine cellar. It's not so much a wine cellar. It was supposed to be a wine cellar, but then it didn't become one. So it was just a room that just stuff went into. It was just a stuff room. And so her body was in there. Of course, father sees his 6-year-old daughter, freaks out, picks her up, carries her up into the living room, which these are natural reactions when you have a when your child has died in front of you, you want to hold them, you want to cover them. Like these are things that you do with your children to, like, these are
normal
instincts.
Yeah.
It's not good when you've got a crime that you need to solve, because now all of his fibers and things are getting all over her and vice versa. They put a blanket over her and a shirt, and the body was moved even again to over near the Christmas tree. So there was just so much
contamination,
tarnishing of this scene. It was,
well, here's the thing. Who's
right.
It was the woman, the detective lady's idea for them to go look, but how does that even make sense? Like, wouldn't you want to go with these people? Like, I wouldn't just let people just randomly go and do a search in their own house, like when it's a crime scene by themselves, because like, who's to say if let's say John's the one that did it, he could have been hiding shit. He could have been destroying shit. He could have moved JonBenét's body down into the basement. I mean, we're going off the account of him and his friend, right? But I mean, who's to say they didn't fucking contaminate? It's just like the amount of stupidity. I just don't understand. Like, I'm not a cop and I would be like, let's not do that. That doesn't sound like a great idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that should have been done was the house should have been searched and cleared. So,
and nobody should have been able to walk in or out.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been a thing that should even have had to do at that point. And also, it shouldn't have been done by him. So, not good decisions made all around. Finally, at I want to say like 10:30, the body is taken to the morgue for an autopsy. So the Ramseys immediately lawyer up. They refuse to answer any questions.
John was calling to make travel arrangements.
Oh yeah, he was trying. Well, they were planning on going to Georgia, but also they were from Georgia. And one of the like, if something traumatic happens to you, first thing you want to do is go home and be in someplace familiar. So I get that. I totally get that. That doesn't seem sketch to me. And also it just kind of seems like things rich people do. Like, it's fine. I can just fly down to Georgia. Like, I'll get on the jet and come back if you need to ask me any questions. Like, it's not that big a deal. I can take a nap. And so, like, shady, not necessarily concerning, I would say.
Well, and you bring up the fact that they're rich, and I totally, like, sometimes I forget that, but yeah, they live in a completely different world, and like, yeah, going to Georgia to escape it all makes complete sense, especially when you have a private fucking plane to do that.
Like, if I'm going to Georgia, it's a whole thing. Like, I've got to make travel arrangements. I got to know where I'm staying. But no, for them, it's just let's get on the plane. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just tell the guy who is near the plane to
put some fuel in the
plane. I don't know.
I don't know how planes work.
Do the thing. Make the plane ready to fly. Just put the gas in there. So I think it was 2 days later when the Ramseys finally speak to the police, and that's Patsy and John Burke. They are keeping him locked down. They give DNA to the police, and they immediately go to Georgia. They have JonBenét's funeral, and then on January 1st, John and Patsy go on TV. I don't remember which one it was, but they go on TV, just, pleading for, I don't know, information, I guess, on what happened. Patsy is clearly drugged up in this interview. She is like, her eyes are wandering. I mean, and if my daughter had just died, yeah, absolutely, drug me up. I'm not going to like that. That's painful. Of course, I'd want to be like on Xanax constantly. They should not have made her go on TV, though. That was a shame. So the autopsy, this poor girl, and again, talking about it bums me out. So we're just going to kind of breeze on through it. So she was strangled with a rope. And the rope, they keep calling it a garrote. And so a paintbrush is used to tighten this, the rope, which to me kind of sounds like a tourniquet. And Robert, you're a nurse, so that you know what a tourniquet is. But that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
I was getting like, it's interesting you say tourniquet, because like when I was watching it, I was getting more like the mafia vibe, like, you know, the wire and the thing, like that's what I was, but tourniquet, like that makes sense. But I have never seen, are those even like garrotes? Are those even like a thing? I've never heard that term until this.
It's just, I think it's just an umbrella term for any kind of object that is used to tighten a rope.
Like a shank.
Yeah.
Like that's a term for like anything that's like sharp or what, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
A garrote is the
equivalent
tourniquet
to that
term for a shank. Yeah.
Okay.
So with that rope, she was also bound around the wrist. There was blunt force trauma to the head. So that caused a 8.5 inch crack in her skull. And I think there was, I know, because I've listened and watched so much stuff on it. Like there was a giant, like a chunk missing from her skull. It was just terrible. The girl suffered, like this poor little baby. There were signs of sexual trauma, that she could have been molested. However, she was in beauty pageants, and I'm not saying she wasn't molested. I'm just going to say this right now. I'm not saying she wasn't. However, in beauty pageants, those tights are super tight, and a lot of that stuff, and just also being a 6-year-old child, could have caused that same kind of trauma. I'm not saying it did. I'm not saying it didn't. But that is a possibility. It could have happened. And there were stun gun marks on her neck. So she was, the thinking is that she was stun gunned while she was in bed. Then she was brought down to the basement, almost wine cellar, where the rest had happened.
Did they find stuff in her underwear too? They found like some DNA or whatever, something in her underwear.
I don't know if they found DNA in her underwear, but they
found some residue or something.
Well, they did have, she had urine in her underwear, because I mean, either she peed the bed or she just peed her pants with fear, because if somebody was going to kill me, I would probably pee my pants as well. So yeah, there was unidentified. It might have actually been in her underwear.
Yeah, I think it was unidentified DNA.
Unidentified DNA. So it wasn't anybody in that house. It wasn't John. It wasn't Burke. The other kids weren't even in town, so they were automatically not suspects. So let's talk about the suspects. There are...
Oh, wait. I want to hear from everybody. No. Before you get into the subjects or suspects, I want everybody, before we talk about the suspects, I want each one of us to say who we think did it.
Right now, in the beginning?
Yeah.
I'll let you guys go first. I have strong opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the brother. Burke.
You think it was the brother?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who did it, but I don't think it was anyone in the family.
Okay.
I'm going with the intruder.
Hot take. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going with the intruder theory.
Okay. And then Layla, what about you?
I think that there is too much odd connection. Family, being a kind of sketchy. They are hiding. Now, were they protecting the son? I feel like we could be leaning that way. I feel like we could strongly lean that way. They know and they knew something.
Yeah. Yeah, there has been a lot of, there is a lot of suspicion when it does come to the parents. I personally don't. Well, let's go into the suspects of why.
We can explain why we think after you explain the suspects. I just wanted to know off base, like before we really get into it, who everybody thought did it.
All right.
So you're going with intruder. I'm saying it's Burke. Layla's saying,
honey, I'm saying it was an inside job.
Yeah. You don't know who, but you're saying it's inside.
100%, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now explain the suspects.
To clarify, I'm not necessarily saying that the intruder is unrelated, like doesn't know the family at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it wasn't anyone.
You don't think it was the main three.
Interesting perspective. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It could have been somebody that knew them. Absolutely.
Yeah, it probably was.
Mm-hmm. So John was one of the biggest suspects. So we talked about how he was very rich, very visible. There were questions of, was he molesting her? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there's no evidence that says he wasn't.
The doctor said that during checkups or whatever, there was no sign of sexual assault or anything like that.
Yeah, and she had been to the doctor quite a bit in the past, like, I think year or two, but she also, Burke hit her in the face with a golf club, which they say, some say it was accidental, some say he's a sociopath, but either way, if somebody gets hit in the face with a golf club, they're going to need to see doctors. And when you're rich and your mom's a housewife, you can go to all of the doctors. So you can have multiple, because you've got to have your initial visit where they just kind of look at your face and make a plan. And then you have another plan or another visit where you get things worked on. And then that final visit where they look back at it. So like having a whole lot of doctor's visits when you're a 6-year-old child and your mom has nothing else to do. Sure. That doesn't raise any red flags with me.
Yeah.
So I guess that was really the only reason John was a suspect. Just, was he molesting his daughter? We don't know that. We don't know. Patsy Ramsey, they said maybe, she had, JonBenét had started having an issue with bedwetting again. She had stopped for a while and then she, it had started again, which also bedwetting can be a sign of
sexual assault
and sexual abuse. So that's not, saying that it wasn't, that she wasn't. I mean, she very well could have been sexually abused. Like, that is a common occurrence. So they're saying that maybe Patsy snapped this one time. She got so frustrated with all the bedwetting that she just flung JonBenét across the room. And
I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's like the image in my head. Like, I'm so sick of you pissing the bed. I just don't buy it. I don't buy
it either.
I don't think.
Okay, so what if your kid wet the bed?
They're fucking rich. They don't fucking care.
You have a housekeeper who will wash those sheets in the morning. I don't buy that. And
you're not murdering your kid because they wet the bed. I'm just not buying it.
Right. And that's the moment you snap is not when you're in her bedroom seeing it. And where's the stun gun happening? I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't think that's the thing that happened. But also Patsy, rewinding to that ransom note, they did handwriting tests or handwriting comparisons for everyone in the family. Patsy's was the closest they came, and she was inconclusive. So everybody else tested that no, they did not write it.
Yeah.
Patsy, inconclusive. So did she write it? Maybe. Maybe not. It's inconclusive. So I don't buy it. I don't buy this Patsy Ramsey. Also, it should be noted, may she rest in peace. May her memory be a blessing. Patsy Ramsey passed away in 2006 of breast cancer. Mm-hmm. I think it was her second round of having it. So that's a sad day. Burke is another suspect. So he had previously hit her in the head with a golf club. We talked about. Some say it was accidental. Some say it was on purpose. I am a younger sibling, so I'm very familiar with being, I don't want to say beat up by my siblings, but we were not nice to each other. And when you're a little kid, like, you get knocked around. I don't know that I had ever chosen anything on television when I was a child because I was the youngest. So I did not matter to the other siblings. So, I mean, yeah, I can kind of see an older sibling getting real pissed off at his annoying younger sister and just hitting her and not realizing what he did.
Okay.
Is he going to do that in the middle of the night though?
Yeah. So this is my thing. And I don't I was watching the thing and the guy said, you have to look at stuff. You have to look at the evidence and not try to paint a picture. So, but I am going to paint a picture before I present my evidence. What I think that he did do it because she's this pageant girl, and apparently he was the prize of the family before JonBenét, and then she started doing pageants, and she's this new sensation, and she's getting all this attention. And so I totally get that, being the older sibling and not getting that attention, and so acting out. Now, did he kill her intentionally? I don't think so. I think what probably happened was with the fight, they got into some stupid fight. He overreacted and fucking hit her in the head, and she died. And then the parents did this whole big cover-up thing. I think that's what happened, because I don't know, just there's just too many things. She got kidnapped, and then they invited all their friends to come over, and they fucking contaminated the scene. And then the whole thing with John finding her body in the basement, it just screams like a cover up. And then they lawyered up, and then they wouldn't let the police talk to Burke. And in my mind, and they didn't let the police talk to Burke even before they found the body, right? And when someone gets kidnapped, say your loved one gets kidnapped, I would want to cooperate as much as possible with the police, right? You would want them to talk. You would want them to give their stories or whatever. And none of that's happening. So I just find that that's kind of fishy. Why are you lawyering? Why are you lawyering up? And then why are you refusing to have police talk to you? Because you want to cooperate, you want to help in any way. especially since this is your daughter. I just think that it's kind of fishy. And then when I was watching that documentary and they said that the son was saying the same line as the mom during his interrogation when they finally did let police talk to him and the mom. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like they had the same, I forget what that line was, but they used the same words. And like, I think he was coached by either her or the publicist or whoever prior to going in and being interrogated, which makes sense. I mean, he's a little kid. Like, yeah, I would want to, you know, you're protective of your kids, but at what point are you like being overprotective and interfering? Like, you know what I mean? I think he did it.
I mean, they've got that fancy lawyer that they hired. I feel like the lawyer can determine what the line is. But, you know, I hear what you're saying, Robert, and I don't want to be that guy, but the police aren't always trustworthy.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it.
Like if we look,
but they're rich and white.
They're
rich
and white? Absolutely.
What reason do you have to be afraid of the police if you're rich and white? I mean, honestly, like you don't. Like that makes no sense. Like they don't. I get what you're saying about, trust me, I get like being not trusting the police, but they're rich and they're white. Like they're not worried about the police. It's Boulder, Colorado. Like, and like crime and stuff didn't happen in that town prior to this. Like they didn't have it. Obviously they're letting people contaminate the scene. Like they don't get this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I just think he did it and then they covered it up because, I mean, couldn't they have stun gunned her after she had died, right? To make it look like a stun gun, and they could have done what, you know, the rope thing. Like, did they determine like the rope was the thing that killed her or the blunt force trauma to the head?
I think it was the strangulation that actually killed her. But yeah, with stun guns, you can definitely, or just anything, the medical examiner can determine what happened before she was dead and what happened after she was dead. Which way it goes, I don't know.
We didn't get that deep into it.
I didn't get that deep into it. I didn't read autopsy reports because a 6-year-old girl's autopsy report would definitely
it's fucking depressing. Yeah.
Like, that's not, and I've heard that that 911 call so many times, and every single time I'm just like, this is terrible. One thing about that one 911 call that we didn't talk about. So there are folks who have listened to that. And so Patsy gets off the line fairly quickly after she tells the 911 operator, this is where I am, this is what I need, this is what's going on. But before she gets off, there are people who swear that there is sound and people talking in the background. And so many folks have listened to it. So many folks have come up with different things at the end. In one instance, it was John saying to probably Burke, "What did you do?" Or there was one instance where you could hear Burke in the background saying, "What did you find?" So it's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, once you get something in your head, that's all you're going to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know about that. So those are the family.
Okay.
Those are the people. Let's talk intruder theory. So that night, they went to bed with an unlocked door and 2 cracked windows. So there's an alarm in the house, but if you, I wasn't raised with an alarm, but if you were raised with an alarm you have kids, you know that alarm is going to go off constantly if those kids are not paying attention, which often children don't pay attention. So after so many times of alarms going off and the dispatchers having to jump in, you start getting fined. So they stopped setting the alarm. So somebody could have gotten in. JonBenét's room was on the 4th floor of this house, which...
Holy shit, 4 floors.
4 floors. It was it's a giant house, but it's a really odd looking house. It's just all over the place. There are just a whole bunch of rooms. It's like if a normal house was expanded on it like 8 times in different directions.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but JonBenét Ramsey's room was on the top floor, the 4th floor. So her parents couldn't even hear her in her room, which I don't.
Isn't that odd? That's kind of odd.
That would be odd to me. Not being able to hear. I don't have any children, but I would assume you'd want to know if your child was screaming in the night. So there is. They were looking at a neighbor who had played Santa Claus at a recent party and is known for playing Santa Claus at a lot of parties. And JonBenét Ramsey said something to the extent of, well, Santa's going to bring me a special gift later.
Well, they found a note that he wrote that said, he wrote a note that said, something very special will happen to you after Christmas.
Gotcha. I remember. Yeah. And and that could have been her neighbor who was playing Santa, but this is also this is a pageant girl who was Miss Christmas or something or other. So I really think she was probably surrounded by so many different Santas. It could have been the neighbor. It could have been a lot of other people. But yeah, that note, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's odd, but it doesn't scream, I'm going to murder you later.
Well, apparently his alibi corroborated with the investigation, it matched. And then he had just had major surgery too. And he's like a frail guy. And they said that for him to be able to do what needed to be done to kill her, would have required him to do more than he was probably capable of because of surgery. Because he's an old fucking guy.
He's an old guy. But again, lots of Santas around that they could choose from. It didn't have to be this neighbor. It could have been another Santa intruder. Yeah. Because this isn't the only Santa that she saw. It was Christmas time in Colorado, and she is a beauty queen.
And she's 6 years old. She doesn't know any better. She loves that Santa guy. So if a guy dressed up as Santa and it's like, hey, little girl, I
love Santa. I was actually, well, not all the time. So I was at a close acquaintance of mine had a Christmas party, and he hired a Santa, and this guy was so creepy to me. And I really hope that the neighbor was not as creepy as this guy, but I'm just this is hiring a Santa to come to a party. It's very much a thing that rich people do or young gay people do because it's fun. So I can really connect to having a Santa at a party. They thought maybe the housekeeper had done it. She checked out. She had an alibi. Honestly,
there was that one pedophile molester guy that he wasn't even in the same state or whatever. I forget how they even got him involved.
He admitted to it.
No, not that one. The other guy. The guy that said that they interviewed him and he was not the guy at the end of the documentary, the other guy, the seedy looking guy. He had dark hair and not Daxus. There was another pedophile guy, but he said that he wouldn't have done that to JonBenét. Like, he loved her. Like, and he was like, when they
all say that, all the child molesters say that.
But I don't know how he checked out, but he checked out too.
Yeah.
And then there was the other pedophile guy.
Yeah. He
was so weird.
He was super weird. So he confessed to it. But the only information that he was giving them was public information that was already out there. So this it wasn't new. Also, I think it was Thailand, but it might be some other country
Thailand.
In that neck of the woods.
Yeah,
Thailand.
He
was
in Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
He was facing charges there for child molestation, and their prisons are not great. Neither are ours, but our prisons are a lot better than what he was facing. So there were thoughts that
he was doing that to get out of that.
Trying to get out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he didn't do it. It could have been any one of the pedophiles in those child pageants. Those pageants are a feeding ground for pedophiles and child molesters. And it is just so, I have such an issue with these pageants just because I grew up a girl. I felt, even though it wasn't directly put upon me, I had so many identity issues of not feeling pretty enough or not being thin enough. And, having that with these children from such a young age and saying, oh, you're not winning this contest because you're not pretty enough, or you didn't sing nicely enough. It's very, I don't like the whole thing. And then just all of the undesirables that are attracted to it. There are, like, not all of these photos of JonBenét all gussied up are just, obvious of her as a child. Like, there are some where they're really sexualizing her and trying to make her look an adult.
She looks like she's fucking 16. Like, going on 16. Like, a thing I found interesting in this was when as this was progressing and years go by and like they haven't found the killer. So in 1999, they did the grand jury that looked at all that. What was it? Like 30,000 pieces of evidence or something crazy like that, for 13 months. And they were going to indict somebody. And so this was a 13-month grand jury case. And then they decided that the prosecutor, Alex Hunter, said that they are not going to indict anybody. They weren't going to indict the Ramseys. So then in 2013, it was revealed, they did a news report that revealed that the grand jury did in fact want to indict the Ramseys for two charges, one for abuse resulting in the death of a child, and the other was an accessory to a crime. And Alex Hunter decided that he was not going to indict the Ramseys, like bring on these charges against them. And he didn't tell, the public this, which I think is really fucking weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, Patsy's dead. Well,
1999, she wasn't. In
1999, 2013, when it came back around, she was gone.
But I think it's interesting that he didn't bring that up when he said, like, we're not going to indict, the grand jury said, hey, we have these two charges against these people that we want to do. And then he decides that there's not, well, his thing was he felt like there wasn't enough evidence to convict. Which, if you felt like that, why didn't you just say that to the public? Like, yes, the grand jury did say that they have 2 charges, but in my personal opinion, as the prosecuting attorney, is that there's not enough evidence for me to make a conviction. Therefore, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, in 1989, so that grand jury, and I know you're on Team Burke Kilder, but a grand jury that 1999, they cleared him. They said he did not kill her, but he probably knows who does, and he just won't tell. Which, is kind of like, oh, are you protecting someone? Are you protecting your mom and dad?
If it's not him, it's somebody in that family, for sure.
Oh, right. And if he's protecting someone, so as we've been housed inside for a year, I've just kind of been radicalizing myself with all of these liberal notions. And so I'm kind of in this conspiracy mindset where I'm just like, somebody was mad at John Ramsey. They killed his daughter, tried to set it up to make it look like him. And that's it. And we'll never know what happened. And Burke knows, but he's not going to say anything because he's afraid they'll still kill his father. I don't know. That's my conspiracy mind coming into play, but who knows? We may never know. Something interesting about John. Well, I mean, and maybe when John dies, we'll find out more information because maybe then Burke will want to talk. He did a TV special a couple of years ago, and of course I watched it. I have watched and listened to so much JonBenét Ramsey stuff because this happened. I was probably 11, and it was one of my very first true crime murder that was in my peripheral. So I was watching stuff. I've been listening to stuff. It's just all kinds of stuff. So he was on, I don't know, one of those shows doing a special. And of course it's Burke tells all, only he doesn't tell anything.
He doesn't say shit.
Of substance. Yeah. If he were going to say something, it would not be on an ABC special. So, but maybe after John dies, we'll get more information.
I don't know. I think it was, if it wasn't him, which I think it was him, then it was definitely somebody in the family and they just did this big cover up and we'll never know.
Could be.
It was whoever fed her that pineapple in the bowl. I was just cracking up at the pineapple in the kitchen, the undigested pineapple.
We didn't mention that there was the autopsy showed that she had pineapple in her stomach, and there was a bowl of pineapple on the table or in the sink in one of the crime scenes. Which, I mean, maybe it was eaten the night before. Maybe it was eaten that morning because they did have an early flight. Maybe she was up eating pineapple early. I don't. So many different things. There was one little bit of little piece of info that I found really suspect. So Patsy said that the following day she put on the same clothes that she wore the night before.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Like, nobody's going to do that. No rich person or non-rich person. Anybody who has more than one clothing, who does not have just a pile of dirty clothes, we're going to put on new clothes the next day. Maybe not everybody, but I would
Girl,
say
you're rich. Like, she's rich. No,
right,
you don't do that.
And also, she was just at a party the night before. Why are you putting on your party clothes?
Yeah.
You need to be putting on your plain clothes because you're about to hop a jet.
Yeah, it just no.
Yeah,
Layla, do you have any insights into this
I mean, so I've just been listening to both of you really feed into a lot of the things that, I've felt. I did find it interesting, though, that, from what I didn't watch the same documentary you guys did, but I've been listening to a few podcasts while at work. And I don't know, I feel like the podcast and like just general speculation never focuses enough on like the drifter, the electrician guy, the Santa. I mean, like to your point, Esther, like you said, it obviously must have been that knew them, right? So I'm just like, I don't know. That I think I should like dig deeper there, but I don't have, enough to add to it.
Yeah. I mean, and this house is like a maze. So
yeah,
a stranger can't just go into this house, find this little child on the 4th floor and bring her down into this basement, which is another maze. Yeah, the stranger doesn't make sense. But also at the same time, Patsy's house was just in one of those housewife decorating magazines. So maybe they saw a little bit, but I mean, it's a huge maze in that house. I don't know. It's a mystery. That's why
I feel like for all the work that went into like her supposed like the stun gun and then the rope and then like the pineapple. Like, I just feel like that's not a stranger doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is somebody that's thought, well, I mean, it could have been a stranger, but like, this is somebody that thought about her, like, thought about it deliberately. Like, it's not, I don't know. I mean, a stranger could think about it deliberately, but it just seems more intimate, like stun gun and the pineapple. Like, it just screams like she knew the person.
Well, and strangling is a very
intimate
way of killing someone because they're right in front of you. You're right there with them.
Yeah.
They also say that strangulation is a man's way of killing someone. That's all I gotta say. Mostly their strength, though. Not. It's mostly because they have the strength to do it. Women don't. But yeah.
I think it was Burke. I'm gonna go. If I died today and I went to heaven and Jesus said, "Tell me, I will answer any question that you have," I would ask, who killed JonBenét?
All right.
All right, when you come back to haunt me, I want you to tell me.
Oh, I will, girl. I will. That would be the only thing that I don't understand. Like, when ghosts don't if ghosts communicate to people, why aren't they telling them these things? That would be the only thing I would want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, girl, I got some shit to tell you. JonBenét's killer is, and then the psychic goes, "Oh, the communication was cut off. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who."
Robert, you're extra as fuck. Wait, can we talk about one thing? So there was a theory about some sort of weird satanic sexual ritual with the way that she was like found. Have you heard anything about that, or you guys heard anything about that?
No.
So something about just like the way that she was tied up and what she was wearing and like a white dress, like very like virgin, I don't know. It was very strange. I remember just seeing something about that on one of those conspiracy documentaries. We all know those can be a very slippery slope. But something about like the way her body was found, the way that she was tied up, what she was wearing, like too much symbolism. I didn't know if you had anything to that.
I have heard that. I haven't heard it brought up with any legitimacy. It's always this is what people thought for a second, and it was not accurate. So yeah, I have heard that being brought up, but I think most people can agree it's not a real thing. because I think she was just wearing her night clothes. One thing they always like to mention is that she was wearing day of the week underwear, but it said Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
I had day of the week underwear and I never wore them on the right day. So that does not raise any red flags to me.
I don't know.
Anybody else have?
I don't understand.
You're like anybody, please.
Anybody else? No,
I'm more concerned about why are they labeling the underwear? Like what was the point? Like, tell me, since you have insight into that, tell me, what was the point of that?
They're just days of the week underwear. That was a thing for a little bit. And,
I just don't understand.
The fact that Robert's asking this question, Robert, it's a very simple reason to teach children or anyone to change their underwear on the daily to stay fresh.
Or to remember what day it is, to learn.
Yes, to look down at their crotch and say, hey, it's Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean,
I just think that's very, I don't know.
I always thought it interesting that it came as a pack of 6, and I don't think there was Sunday in there.
Wait,
and
what?
So, yeah.
Wait, what?
Right.
Sunday is the Lord's Day.
So that means you wear underwear, not that you don't let you go.
No, you go commando.
I don't know the rules. Look, I don't
stop it.
I don't make the news. I just report it. That's what happened. There was no Sunday.
Sunday's the Lord's Day. You go naked.
Oh my gosh. I need to find some more information.
Maybe that's just the day you don't get out of bed. So you don't.
Carl, I think you had like a messed up pack of underwear. I don't know where you bought that shit from. Because I'm looking online and everybody's got 7 days. For some reason, you had 6.
Yeah, that could have been just me.
Your mom. She's like, I lost Sunday.
I'm a very narcissistic person where I feel like if something happened to me, it must have happened to everybody else. Is that not how everybody thinks?
Yes.
Did not having that Sunday underwear traumatize you?
I mean, it might have, yeah. It could have. There's been so much trauma along the way. Luckily, I think I hit that sweet spot of trauma because my therapist said I was her funniest client, and I think
you take great pride in that.
I take a lot of pride in that because she hits all the crazies. So
I do like when my counselor laughs at like my jokes, like when I say, and like it's authentic laughing. It's not like the okay, and then writes down some stuff. It's like, outside of therapy, if I wasn't getting seen, I feel like I would vibe very well with my counselor. Like we would get along. Yeah. I love that.
I think my therapist and I would definitely be friends in real life. So,
don't you hate that though? It's like, man, I wish we were friends. Like,
I know, but I mean, I really enjoy her as a therapist.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm not going to switch that out. I got plenty of friends.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to add to this? Any lingering thoughts?
Any other? Oh, there's one conspiracy theory that's super ridiculous that I didn't mention.
Yes, dig in. I love this. Go.
There is a theory that JonBenét Ramsey is actually grew up to be Katy Perry.
Yep.
That is a thing that people say on the internet.
How could we neglect to bring that up? I think you for bringing that up.
I'm sorry. I can't believe I missed that one.
I believe it.
I don't. You
don't even have to tell.
Katy Perry is 6 years older than JonBenét.
You don't even have to tell me the details. I believe it. I believe it.
Like
Robert subscribed.
Basic math, right there. I'll do it. But yeah. So that is an interesting theory that people think, and yeah, that's all I have about JonBenét.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anything that you want to plug or talk about, like promote? Is there anything that you're involved in that you want to share with the world?
So I am the president of the board of directors for Gateway Men's Chorus, and I'm always trying to promote my guys, my singers. And so their next concert, this is going to be our last virtual concert. We have had to go virtual during COVID, and it has been very difficult. But we have found some kind of way to weather through the storm. And so our next virtual concert, and hopefully our last virtual concert, will be June 6th or June 30th.
June 30th? Okay.
Yeah, June 30th. And just keep an eye on gmcstl.org for all things Gateway Men's Chorus.
Well,
and then, I'm Esther the Jew on Instagram. I'm nothing special, but you can see me make bread.
Oh, I do love your bread. It looks so good. Please.
I will absolutely be sending you a follow. Look out for me.
Great. I can't wait.
Well, thank you, ladies, for coming on and talking tonight. Thank you, Esther, for coming on and talking true crime.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want? No, go ahead.
I did want to say one thing before we leave. I wanted you and I to talk about one thing before I dip out. You have been very vocal about The Crown and watching The Crown, and I've just binged the entire season in the last month. I hate everyone in that family. Yeah. Like every single character in that show. I can't stand any of them. Like even Lady Diana, like I, as a human person, an actual person, love her so much. But her in the show, it's just not.
Like, what do you not like? So you're saying you don't like her in the show, but like in reality.
If I love Lady Di, I think she is just a beautiful woman, just an inside and out, great humanitarian. On the show, like I don't. She feels very weak and timid, or she plays that way. And the eating disorder doesn't ring accurate to me. It kind of looks like someone who's trying to act like they have an eating disorder rather than, I don't know, it's kind of like trying to watch somebody act high when they're clearly not high. You know
okay, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the rest of the family, I don't like them for
shit.
For legitimate, like real life and on the show. Like even the ones you're supposed to feel sorry for, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you're not in the spotlight. You're a princess. Sit down.
They're just families so fucked. It's just, I can't. I just feel like watching that show just made me hate Prince Charles even more than I already did. Like a real nasty, like I'm very curious to see how they do the last two seasons.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
And especially with Princess Diana's death, like it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I wish they were going as far as, today, like with.
Yeah, present day.
Because I think the parallels between then and now are just so, like, they're very similar.
It is so very interesting to me. Just before Meghan Markle came into the picture, Harry and Will and Kate did this kind of PSA commercial about the importance of treating your mental health. And they talked about, the depression that came with losing their mother early. And then all this with Meghan Markle comes out. And I'm just like, didn't you guys just
talk about this shit?
Talk about this? Didn't you just talk about how important this is?
Well, I feel like the only one in that family that I actually like is Harry.
Yeah.
Like, he's he's the baby, but like, I just feel like he was such a mama's boy, and like, you know, his mom dying really affected him, and like,
yeah,
that's it.
Wait, what about Queen Elizabeth's sister?
You
Margaret?
know,
Thank you.
I feel sympathetic towards her, but she's fucked up too. I mean,
they're all fucked up, but I feel like I don't relate to her a bit more than more.
I don't feel bad for her. I don't feel bad for her at all.
Because
like,
she's a princess still.
Yeah, she's still a princess. She's still in the limelight, still doing all these things, these public appearances. She gets to wear a tiara. Like, I don't feel sorry for her at all.
You know, I will say though, I do feel the only thing that I feel sorry about for this family is that they weren't expecting it, right? Like, she wasn't expecting to be queen.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it was kind of just thrown on her. I don't know. That's the only kind of like sympathetic. And I do like how the show kind of like highlights that like, she didn't really, the crown just kind of fell in her lap. And like, she had to make lemons out of lemonade. And like, that's the only thing that I can really like say that I respect from her, is that like, she made lemonade out of lemons. And the only reason she's probably still alive today is just because she's terrified of having fucking Charles be the king. She will wait him out. He will die before her.
I can see that. She seems like she's in better physical condition.
Also, before we end this, I'm just going to end this by saying that what was Edward? That was her husband, right?
Philip, you mean?
Philip was dead 8 months ago.
Oh, absolutely. That poor man. They strung him along like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yep, exactly. Yep. He was
he
dead.
Might be the worst one of them all on that.
He was on ice for 8 months. Like, oh, decrepit.
in a chamber. Just sleeps in like
a cryo chamber.
Yeah, like a vacuum sealed bag. And they defrost him every morning.
Oh, so gross.
Shit.
Well, thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to our lovely audience for tuning in and listening to us talk conspiracy and true crime and all that good shit. And check us out on Instagram or Facebook, TipTea Podcast. And let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about, and we will talk about it. So thank you.